We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Attacks in Tel Aviv, the DNC is underway, layoffs at GM, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Hamas and Islamic Jihad claimed joint responsibility Monday for a bombing the day before in Tel Aviv that killed the apparent attacker and wounded a bystander, and that Israeli officials confirmed was a terrorist attack. The bomb appeared to go off before it was intended, and the presumed attacker was shown in security footage walking down the street wearing a large backpack just before the explosion, according to the Associated Press. Israeli media quoted police officials as saying the intended target was a nearby synagogue. In a statement Monday, Hamas's militant wing said it and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad's militant wing were responsible for the blast. Al-Qasim brigades, in cooperation with Saraya al-Quds, announced the execution of a martyrdom operation that took place last night, Sunday, in the city of Tel Aviv. The groups threatened martyrdom operations within the occupied territories will return to the forefront as long as the massacres by the occupation, the displacement of civilians, and the assassination policy continue. The first day of the Democratic National Convention got off to a tense start on Monday as anti-Israel demonstrators marched outside the United Center, clashing with police officers and breaching part of a fence. The moment came after thousands of protesters marched toward the convention, shouting incendiary slogans to signal their opposition to Israel's ongoing war with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. As the crowd neared the United Center, dozens of protesters broke through a fence set up by police. Officers put on gas masks as some members of the crowd tried to bring down a second fence set up in front of police, who yelled at protesters to get back. More police officers descended on the area of the breached fence to repair it to its original state. As the Democratic National Convention kicked off, Vice President Harris called for upping the corporate tax rate as the party's presidential nominee unveiled her first big-ticket proposal to raise revenues. The Harris campaign confirmed that the vice president is proposing to raise the rate that major businesses pay from 21% to 28%, describing it as fiscally responsible way to put money back in the pockets of working people and ensure billionaires and big corporations pay their fair share. As president, Kamala Harris will focus on creating an opportunity economy for the middle class that advances their economic security, stability, and dignity, campaign spokesperson James Singer said in a statement. The announcement would also constitute a major rollback of the 2017 tax cuts that dramatically cut the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and doubled the standard deduction for all taxpayers. If Harris allows these cuts to expire, as she has indicated she will, it means taxes will go up for 90% of Americans. Democratic vice presidential candidate and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's past statements are coming back to haunt him. In the 1990s, he praised life under Chinese communism, telling his students that it is a system in which everyone shares and gets free food and housing. It means that everyone is the same and everyone shares, Waltz said during a lesson on China's communist system in November 1991. The doctor and the construction worker make the same. The Chinese government and the place they work for provide housing and 14 kilograms, or about 30 pounds of rice per month. They get food and housing. Waltz's remarks were reported in the 1991 article in Nebraska's Alliance Times-Herald that focused on his work on student exchange programs in China. At the time, Waltz was teaching social studies at a Nebraska high school. Ukrainian forces have begun targeting key Russian transportation routes in the Kursk region in a move to block Moscow from resupplying troops as Ukraine looks to create a buffer zone between it and Russia. As Kiev's incursion entered its second week, reports surfaced Monday suggesting that Ukraine had struck a third and potentially the final usable bridge in Russia's Kursk region. According to local news outlet Kiev Independent, which cited comments made Monday by an official from the Russian Investigative Committee, a bridge near the Karyev village over the same river had been damaged by Ukrainian forces. The food industry is hitting back. It claims it is ripping off U.S. consumers after Democratic presidential nominee Vice President Kamala Harris called for a federal ban on price gouging. Harris has blamed corporate greed for food price inflation. Executives say costs ranging from labor to cocoa have surged in recent years, and that profit margins must be maintained to fund the development of new products. We understand why there is this sticker shock and why it's upsetting, said Andy Harrig, a vice president at FMI, a trade group representing food retailers and suppliers. But to automatically just say there's got to be something nefarious, I think to us that is oversimplified. Harris's support for some form of price controls on food is in part an attempt to blunt attacks from Republican nominee Donald Trump. Last week, the former president appeared in front of a table full of groceries, such as Folgers Coffee and Cheerios, and blamed Harris for fueling inflation while serving in the Biden administration. Harris was the deciding vote in multiple spending packages that caused rapid inflation. General Motors is laying off more than 1,000 salaried employees globally in its software and services division, following a review to streamline the unit's operations, CNBC has learned. The layoffs, including roughly 600 jobs at GM's tech campus near Detroit, come less than 6 months after leadership changes overseeing the operations, including former Apple executive Mike Abbott leaving the automaker after less than a year in March due to health reasons. As we build GM's future, we must simplify for speed and excellence, make bold choices, and prioritize the investments that will have the greatest impact, a GM spokesman said in an emailed statement. As a result, we're reducing certain teams within the software and services organization. We are grateful to those who helped establish a strong foundation that positions GM to lead moving forward. GM declined to disclose the full number of layoffs, but a source familiar with the matter, who declined to be named because the information is private, confirmed more than 1,000 salaried employees would be laid off, including 600 in Warren, Michigan. Impacted employees were notified Monday morning. The layoffs represent about 1.3% of the company's global salaried workforce of 76,000 as of the end of last year. That included about 53,000 U.S. salaried employees. GM has faced an uphill battle due to slowing demand for electric vehicles. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.